All right, so welcome to my Epiphany post. As you can see, I'm still at work as usual. I work after school as well, so I am just always doing too much, as my kids say. So what I'm gonna do is you're gonna see me looking at the screen because I can't do both on the work computer. But just going through like how the different weeks, how I've seen that my growth, and they're not weeks in order, but just how my growth has come. And as I was reading my post, I'm just like, oh man, I have learned a great amount. And, you know, we always say I'm very Christian, see the joy. So seeing the joy, just watching how the growth has happened and how in my head I was just failing. And I'm like, I don't know how to do technology. I grew up in a technology era and still can't do technology. Like, that was crazy to me, and it just stressed me out so much that I just sit in the dark and go, okay, I have to get this together. But one thing that I've noticed that definitely drove my instruction to include technology was the ADDIE model, as most of us have. I really loved that we learned about TPACK and then ADDIE, because that TPACK model seemed to be like, this is the beef of it, but ADDIE model is telling you how to jump in and use it. I always tell that I work in a Priority 1 Plus school, which is very trauma-informed, high-risk students. Most of them are between 2 to 4 grade levels behind. Of course, we have some that are on point and as well as ahead of the curve, but it's really hard, especially as the English teacher, to continue to get everyone involved and feel like they're all learning. So one thing I do know that we love to do is create centers. Centers is something that we don't really do in middle school. Oh, in the background, you can see this is like one of their projects. This was during our project-based learning where they had to create anchor charts based off of some lessons that we learned, whether it was grammar or something like literary genres. So going back to, I can rant all day. So just the things that I use, such as Brain Pop vocabulary, Khan Academy. I haven't used it as much because it is a little advanced for my kids, especially since they're not in 8th grade. Mayon is excellent because it doesn't force the kids to have to read. They can actually sit there and listen and take notes. It works for all of my learners, especially my diverse learners. So it reads to them, and then they're able to choose a book of interest, or if I have a certain topic, such as we were doing Anne Frank as my redesign, they were able to choose from the books that were already on there so that they don't have to go and research. And again, this is a low SES community. So, most of the time they have to walk to the library, and the library is on the other side of town. So to prevent that, I try to give them as many tools that we already have in the classroom so that they are able to be successful. Pear Deck was really awesome because I was able to teach the lesson up on the smart board. And I was having this debate with some friends is whether us having like smart boards actually hinder us as teachers from being creative. So I loved that I used Pear Deck because I'm not just up there showing the slides and clicking different things. They're able to also connect with me on the laptop through Microsoft Classrooms, and we're able to see the changes that they're making as it's happening, and they get to vote and they get to do all these different things. So that was really fun just to watch, and they were excited because we get stream books. We have a stream cart that we get to rent out. So that was really fun to see. Microsoft Teams was really cool because that already comes with our program. And I'm able to communicate with them, and they're able to communicate with each other, but watching that rich engagement that they are having at many times a night when they should be sleeping. But just watching how they're having these conversations and asking questions and feeding off of one another, that is one thing that was really a focus for me because it is very hard to get purposeful talk. That's something that we talk about all the time. I have a anchor chart that talks about it and everything. Just being able to have flexible thinking as well as being able to just continue to have conversation without getting off topic. And it's okay to go off topic as long as that topic doesn't create a rant. And it just continues to engage you through that learning. Prodigy. We don't do math in here, but when we do have the chance, just like today, we had our end of the year field trip. And so I took all the kids that were not able to go, but we were able to get on Prodigy. We were able to get on this technology, and it just engages them. And then we just finished NWEA. And I will say, thanks to being in this course, that including their technology, I believe also helped drive these scores. We had over 145% growth as well as 210% growth. It was actually 148 point something. But that was excellent for reading, especially in 7th grade, because in the 3 years that I've been here, 7th grade has been scoring below the bar. And they just went above and beyond. And I believe that is because we were able to implement more things. And my administration is really supportive of me just trying new things to see what works for our kids and what doesn't, essentially. So I really do like that they were able to get on Prodigy during their free time, which is a video game. It's kind of like Link and Zelda mixed with a little bit of Pokemon, where they get to be wizards and you have to answer the question correctly in order for you to battle the wizards or whatever. So that was really nice, and it was pushing them at their level. So since we took out Compass Learning, that was the greatest replacement that we could have that's also free and they can play at home. Let's see. This redesign project, it really threw me for a loop because I had already began to redesign the project, but this class made me have to think outside the box even more, including trying to make a makerspace. I tried that, absolute fail. I'm gonna have to continue to work on that. But one quote that really stuck with me was that the extent to which they are engaged then is directly correlated with the effectiveness of the learning. These are deeply diverse, complex, and multi-layered. So just thinking of that kind of thing is such as, making everything purposeful. And I think that's something that many teachers miss the mark, especially when you have a basal and they say, go teach this and give you one video. Let me see. Oh, I do have it. So this is our text. This is our basal. Literally collections, A&E, history, and bio. I don't personally watch those channels every day. I know my students don't watch it every day, and many of my parents don't watch it every day. So just having to take such a complex text that is not built for my community of students and being able to redesign such units as this one, it really challenged me to continue throughout the year, because we just finished Anne Frank, but as we started to redesign, I started to redesign a whole bunch, even with my centers, such as we learned about the triangle fires. So I started to try to use those same strategies that I knew that I wanted to put into my final redesign and test it out to see what worked, what didn't work. That anticipatory guide really helped them. They really liked moving across the room and just seeing how each other thinks, as well as just making everything purposeful. That's where I was. Because we're able to do that differentiation as long as we make it purposeful and we make students feel like they're learning and that they're part of that active process of how the class is going to move, especially in middle school. That seems to be a thing. Not only does it have to be fair, but it also has to be interesting. And I tell them, reading is very complex. ELA is complex, but what we're here to do is make it less complex and make it more fun. So they are having fun with it. They're coming up with suggestions. They're like, okay, next time, can we move around the room and find different articles based on this? And I'm like, absolutely. So it's getting them to become not only digital citizens and learning how to use the computers and different technologies, but they're also engaged in their own learning, and they're trying to make their curriculum their own, no matter how hard it may be. So they really are enjoying that. Those one pages, they'll actually have to do one next week on Anne Frank. It just makes me overjoyed to see kids actually engaged, especially in this community, to want to read, to want to continue to push their own boundaries past what they know. Okay. Oh, my unit, the Number the Stars unit I used was very basic. I mean, I worked on that back in 2014 with a couple of my cohorts before it was like our methods course. And I looked at it, I started to pick at that as well. When I taught 8th grade last year, I'm like, okay, we're gonna use this as an anchor text and then go into the Anne Frank play. But then this year I was like, I don't wanna do the play because of course they'll have to do it next year, but they are also able to read The Diary of a Young Girl. So being able to take something that was so long ago that I didn't think we would ever touch again, and just continue to push that as my redesign was very exciting. I liked that the evaluative tools were able to use those evaluative tools to reflect upon what was going on. Because Anne Frank is 13, most of my kids are 13, 12 to 14 actually. And they were able to make a personal connection as well as start to make connections to the outside world, such as, so of course we were talking about the Hitler regime. And as I was reading and doing the slides and they were, having it in front of them, they were making connections to Donald Trump. to Malcolm X. They were just, but we even got to the genocide. But just being able to tap into their schema for them to make these connections was very overwhelming, but it was like, I was overjoyed because now I'm like, oh, let me go research. They're like, no, I'll research it for you. And then they go to the back computer and they find all these different articles. So it just made them want, to be more involved in the process. And I got the idea from them of them teaching class for the next 2 weeks. We're done here May 28th. So since they're done May 28th, I always each year do, they learn how to fill out forms for employment as well as interview skills. But this year they asked if they could teach the class based off of their favorite thing that we talked about this year. And I'm like, absolutely. And I'm going to challenge you to use technology. So that is it was refreshing to feel and to hear from them. So yeah, let's see what else I've got. The problem-driven PBL activity. That was really, really fun, which were the posters that I was talking about, because I had them, luck of the draw, I chose 8 different topics. I have 3 classes. So what they were able to do was use that anchor chart, be able to use the computer. They even put some little websites at the bottom for more information or to get a more in-depth knowledge to go ahead and use this. So not only did it push them up on the Marzano's taxonomy, at the Costas House questioning, it also helped them to feel like, okay, I'm giving them the base of what I need, but then they're able to create their rubric for themselves. I created a baby rubric, and then I said, okay, so how can we expand upon this? So just getting them to, because this course was, of course, more than technology. It was also about how to use technology, and I think it was one of the quotes of, don't put technology in the lesson. Don't build the lesson around technology. Let technology be built around the lesson. And I thought that was very interesting because many times, we see this smart board, or even me, when I first became a teacher, I took the smart board and I was like, okay, we're going to use this and this and this and this. Use the smart notebook. That's me using technology. No, I had to move away from that and be able to start incorporating more skills because the technology is a crutch for me as a teacher, and then it's a crutch for the kids because now they're just looking at this screen and going, okay, well, that was the lesson, instead of them having to go look on this paper as well as try to figure out what's going on. And it's just nice to see. It was great to see my classroom grow, watch them mature, especially because 7th graders are, again, Sour Patch Kids. One day they're very nice and sweet and you're like, oh my God, I love you. And then the next minute they're sour. But I mean, that's basically my epiphany, was being able to use this technology. Even though it stressed me out tremendously, I was able to see the growth and see the kids grow. And then they were eventually asking me, they were helping me to continue to try to push myself. They're like, I know you're in school and I know this, that, because I tell them everything. But we want you to try this next week. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And it just works because they began to take accountability for their own learning. We always talk about, they're accountable for their learning because they're taking care of each other and making sure everybody gets their assignments done. No, they're starting to create lesson plans for me. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to talk about this next week. And they're like, oh, I found some great information. So I think that was like the main thing in this course that I took away, was being able to fully engage them in their learning. As well as not being afraid to use technology only for social media, which we did Plickers. Not ready yet. It's really cool. It worked with my 8th graders a little bit, but I was actually able to put it into the learning, and they were just really excited to have their phones to the point where they ended up on social media. So I was like, nope, we're done with Plickers, which is an a phone clicker. You know how we use them in college and the lectures and stuff, but it was actually a style where they got to use it and do a poll. So the poll part was nice, but it was the after effect. And then they would come from my class to go to the next class and they wouldn't put their phones back. So when I redo it, I will try to implement that in the beginning. So it's not just here, let's try this real quick. And then they're able to understand the expectations of using the phone. I think that's basically it. I enjoyed making them digital citizens, as well as, refreshing myself on what a real digital citizen is and using those ISTE technological standards. I I recently did some interviews, and that I used those same skills like the screencast, and I told the class that I was demo lessoning in, I was like, "Ooh, I just learned how to do a screencast, so rock with me real quick." And they just started laughing, and they thought I was really fun. But it was because I was able to take that I'm not perfect at technology and I still have room to grow, to just celebrating with them that I learned something new. They're like, "Okay, cool, now we can download that and you can teach us." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." So just creating this whole community of learners with the teacher involved, that has made my kids just feel safe and feel like there's a caring culture, that my teacher isn't just that person at the front of the room. She's also a student when it's time for her to be a student, and that she actually does learn from us. So, okay, I'm gonna log off because I can rant all day about my kiddos. I love them to pieces and just everything that they've learned. But yeah, there it is. Don't build your lesson around technology. Make that technology further build the lesson. So that's what I want to end with. And I feel like, yes, this was a great course. Even though it stressed me out to pieces, it was worth it because it actually fit in with my thesis as well on the social emotional aspect of how students feel when they're in the classroom and their connection in those relationships. All right, until next time.